Welcome to Worldview Tube's Washington Report on this June 16th, 2026. I'm joined by Jim Path of theconservativecaucus.com. Jim, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Logan? We're in a post-war society right now. Isn't that awesome?
We have a deal that is supposed to be signed. I think it was signed electronically, but I think they're supposed to have a in-person signing coming up.
As I heard someone say, I didn't know they had DocuSign in Iran.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was saying there. I guess they just emailed over a DocuSign for them to sign it. But
see, they're on their way back to prosperity now that they've decided to get out of war.
There you go. Well, President Trump announced today that he's supposed to be releasing what the deal entails. Read it word by word, he said. So we'll be hearing that. There's a lot of different narratives going around of what the deal is, who gets what, money going to Iran, no money going to Iran. So there's a lot of different narratives going around, but we should be hearing the details of the deal pretty soon, I believe.
Well, I heard I think former friend, we haven't talked in a while, Eric Erickson. I've known him since 2002, and he was running Red State then. He's kind of gone TDS in recent years, not entirely so. Some are much worse. But he was out there saying, this must be a bad deal because we haven't seen anything. There are a whole lot of reasons not to show this deal right now until they get to that signature point, because it will get abused by the media, even if it's good. There's going to be some tweak on it that everyone's going to say is bad, and then it messes the whole thing up. Trump's been very patient. He's done the right thing to get this deal, and that needs to continue forward in a proper way. So, listen, I'm concerned about some of the construct of it as well. But the reality is, Donald Trump's the kind of guy that wants to get us out of war. He's also proven against this stupid Tucker Carlson narrative that Israel's yanking our chain. Well, Netanyahu's already out there showing that he's not entirely pleased with the deal, which probably means it's a really good deal and it'll really keep us out of war, because the military-industrial complex wants regime change. They want to get in there and put ground troops down. In fact, if it comes to Israel, they don't got no ground troops to put in there to get anything done. It would have to be our ground troops. And that is Donald Trump moving against the Israel narrative. This whole thing we went down where Bibi Netanyahu is running Donald Trump was always bull crap. And it sounds like we're on a good path. So I'm interested to see what it looks like.
Yeah, those people have definitely been proven wrong here in the last couple of days. Even today, I think Trump's out saying some things that he's not too happy with the Israel on, some of the striking in Lebanon. And Israel's saying, well, we're not part of that agreement and we can still strike Lebanon, but President Trump is asking them not to. So obviously these people have been proven wrong, right?
Well, I think Israel has a right to defend itself. So it's just that they also have to recognize that to get this deal done in the right way is good for everybody. And then after that deal gets done, if they've got a deal with Hezbollah in Lebanon, they ought to have a right to do that. They just don't have a right to do it when you just might have a real deal taking place that constrains Iran even in that regard in the future. So let's see what the deal is. Let's see what happens. And hopefully better heads will prevail and you just get going back to peace.
Yep. Well, here is President Trump. I believe this morning he's at the G7 summit talking about the deal and how will soon be reading the full memorandum of understanding. Here we go.
But I'll not only release it, I'll probably have a press conference and read it to you word by word so that the press covers it accurately, because it's a very important document. And unlike Obama, who could have destroyed the Middle East with a horrible JCPOA, it is the worst agreement. That was a road to a nuclear weapon. Mine is a wall against a nuclear weapon. I see these people say, but we already had one. He paid a fortune for it. We paid nothing. But I'll not.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I think even Obama has been out. I think I saw a clip of him yesterday talking about this deal and how it's no different than his deal. I guess that's another thing. Like, we'll see when he reads it. Hopefully he'll read it today and we'll get to hear what all it entails.
Well, it's going to be a couple days. They're going to sign it Friday. I don't think he's going to release it likely before then, but if he does, great. Barack Obama is worried about his legacy because he was able to put up this fake canard that somehow he was able to make peace happen in the Middle East. Barack Obama, who weeks after becoming president, having done nothing at all, was given the Nobel Peace Prize just for getting elected. Like that really stupid. But his deal where he was sending pallets of cash, literally amongst billions of dollars to Iran to let them continue to fund terrorism, and created a deal that no matter what he's going to or anyone else is going to say, put in Iran on a quicker path to getting a nuclear weapon. And let's be very clear here. The regime that existed to inspect and control Iran and its nuclear ambitions prior to the JCPOA was far superior than the JCPOA itself. I don't hear that talked about much, but the IAEA was in their faces. And yes, it wasn't a strong regime of inspection, but we knew a whole lot more what was going on. And Iran was trying to hide more and more over time in that previous regime. But the JCPOA didn't do anything to fix the inspection issue that Iran was faltering on leading up into it. It actually put in place the type of absurd arrangement Iran had put together prior to the JCPOA by backing out of proper inspection. So you listen, Donald Trump has done a great service, not only to the Middle East, but to the world in general by dealing with this situation the way he has. And he's a peacemaker. He's not a war maker, but like me, he's no pacifist either. So kudos. I think it's going to end up being good. And I think we're going to be living in still a dangerous world in some ways, but a much better world than the one that existed prior to this agreement.
Yeah, we're definitely not going to have total peace. That's for sure. I'm sure most people saw, if they didn't watch, they saw clips of the fight that happened on the White House lawn over the weekend on Sunday. There's been reports
UFC fight. That's what you got to say. It wasn't just a fight. It kind of sounded. Let's make sure people don't think that there was just some brawl.
There wasn't a brawl on the White House lawn. Yes, a planned brawl. Let's go to this here. Fox reports the FBI has busted an explosive drone terror plot that targeted President Trump's UFC Freedom 250 event at the White House. Let's see what they had to say.
Explosive packed drones hitting buildings near the event, forcing a mass evacuation and steering crowds towards a pre-staged sniper team. A second wave was then planned to storm the White House gate. The FBI first learned of the threat last Wednesday and worked with law enforcement across multiple states to stop it. Joining us now on the phone, former FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino. Dan, thank you for getting on the air with us. What else can you tell us? This is quite a frightening and sobering discovery.
Well, notice the class warfare language amongst the plotters there that appears in this early stage.
All right, so that's all we have on that for now. But it's looking like it wasn't foreign. From what I've heard, it wasn't a foreign group. It was more of a leftist agitator group that was planning this, Jim.
Why do you need a foreign group? Democrats are doing a great job putting together the violence that they want to happen. And listen, people are going to call me excessive for saying that. And I certainly don't make the case that Democrat politicians planned this. The reasons that, at least in the initial reporting, that these people did this was because of Trump related to the Epstein files and other similar issues to that. And all I would have to say about that is the toxic political narrative of Democrats and some Republicans that is so anti-Trump is also anti-American. It leads to local terror-style events that some people plan because they're so angry. Every assassination attempt against Donald Trump was by someone who was crazed against him for no good reason. And this thing seems to be of that nature. And it wasn't just an assassination plan. It was designed to cause harm to a lot of people. Democrats had been building disgust and hatred for this event even being put together. And it's really interesting because they thought it was so horrible that this entire venue was put on the South Lawn. And yet, in the Biden administration, you had all the rainbow flags. You had a so-called trans woman who was really a man who had breasts put on his chest, and he bared himself in front of everybody on the White House South Lawn. And we're supposed to be upset about a UFC event, which honored America, was very inspirational and really consistent with the theme of our 250th anniversary. I believe you're going to see on July 4th, Democrats hating on the United States publicly. And so you got to ask yourself, why? Well, because they're not about America. They're literally, Democrat politicians want to overthrow the American Republic, and they inspire people because of that disgust and hatred to do things like this.
Yeah, and President Trump was asked about that this morning, about the foiled attack during the G7 summit, and here's what he had to say there.
Attack plans for the UFC then? The FBI ordered an attack.
I haven't heard about it, but I watched the attack that I watched with the fighters. He saw it too, by the way. He was sitting back home in his beautiful palace and he was watching that. And they were as good a fights as I've ever seen. Right? The best. That last fight was brutal. And all of the fights.
I'm a little surprised he did not know about that. If he really didn't know about that, that's kind of surprising.
He probably did. He certainly was told about it after, I'm certain. But
yeah,
listen, the way he handles these things is really the right way. Don't give it any more precedence than it deserves. I mean, that's for me to do as a pundit, I guess. Donald Trump is a man's man. He's a real man. He's the kind of man that in some ways, about 80% of him, that any man ought to be, which is calm under pressure, thoughtful about what's happening, strategic in what you do, grounded in how to get results rather than grounded in what people's perceptions of you will be. Now, there are a few areas that I'll quibble about how he is as a man, but not those things. I mean, it's much closer to what has built this country and made it great. Donald Trump is one of those people, and we need to be emulating it. So I like how he handled that. I really do.
Well, here is a new report that's come out about the details of the attackers, the planned attackers, who they are, and the arrests that have already been made. Here we go.
We're thankful that this did not turn into an actual plot. Those two men, as you mentioned, who were arrested in California and are being charged with conspiracy to commit murder, they appeared in federal court in California yesterday. A teenager is facing charges in Ohio. John, around 4,300 people were in attendance for UFC 250, including 1,200 service members. Investigators tell Fox the alleged plan was to use an explosive-laden drones to hit buildings near the event, which could force a mass evacuation and steer crowds towards a pre-staged sniper team. A, quote, second wave was allegedly planning to storm the White House. One suspect allegedly told investigators the goal was to target, quote, capitalist elites or billionaires or politicians who received donations from the American-Israeli Public Affairs Committee, known as AIPAC. Now, in Ohio, a 19-year-old named Tyson Proper, according to multiple sources, was taken into custody. He allegedly spent $3,000 of his graduation money to purchase ammunition, guns, and magazines for the alleged attack. In California, two men, Brian Roa and Michael Allen Thomas, were arrested and, as I mentioned, appeared in court yesterday. Authorities have 23 people on the list as part of a potential network of alleged plotters. And there is more. Investigators uncovered encrypted chats on cell phones where people allegedly discussed attacking the UFC event. And one of the people in the chat identified some 20 23 users discussing what's called pre-operational activity. And some, John, allegedly plan to travel to Fredericksburg, Virginia, just south of Washington, D.C., a day or two before the fight to prepare for the alleged attack. As we go on throughout the day, more of these court documents are going to be
Wow. So even a teenager has been charged in Ohio for being a part of this, and possibly 23 people involved in this attack. That's something else, Jim. I mean, that's not something you would hear much about. You would think you would hear much about Americans planning an attack on the White House.
Well, think about what would motivate something like this, because by far the largest, like in a huge number above 50%, 70 to 90% of this is inspired by left-wing activity. Why is that? It's because what the left has been attempting to build in this country is an ideal that might makes right, that the situational ethic of the moment is what we're going to go by. Whereas we were a country founded on the principle that God in heaven creates rights, that built on the Mosaic law, which holds governmental actors and individuals accountable to him, and that you build a system that allows an adjudication of disputes, not one that puts power in government. Government does not confer rights. These people believe that. They believe that they think that they have a godless outlook, and they see power as the central organizing prospect for government. Whereas the founders, and really, I believe most conservatives in this day and age, and we can be technically, dig on them in certain ways, but most conservatives see all those rights coming from God and having an independent, discernible, foundation that can be reasonably understood and that needs to be complied with, not because some government actor told you to do it, but because there is a principle of law that is there for all human beings. And if this kind of terror would be even more common under any future Democrat administration, because they're going to utilize power to put down their political opponents. This is a risk, but it's also great to see that people have a different outlook, and they're going to put their faith in something beyond government and beyond others, even beyond their own personal power. They're just going to do what's right as best they can. We still have that in this country. We can still nurture it and cause it to grow and build a better society than the ones that Democrats and the left are trying to build.
Yep. Well, we got to go to break. We'll be back here in just one moment with more.
Introducing Worldview Tube Vault. Over 35 years of radio broadcasts, television programs, documentaries, and ebooks. Plus, Worldviewpedia, our powerful search engine for instant worldview and Bible research. Join for as little as $7.99 a month. And now, Vault members get something brand new, courses. Our very first course is here, the Book of Revelation with Brannon House. 53 in-depth lessons, complete with overview quizzes, walking you verse by verse through one of the most important books in Scripture. Getting started is simple. Go to worldviewtube.com/vault and join today. Already a member? Visit worldviewtube.com, click the person icon in the top right, and log in. Then hover over Vault in the menu and select Courses. That's it. You're in. Join WorldviewTube Vault today at worldviewtube.com/vault.
All right, welcome back from the break. Jim, let's move on. We have one thing that's kind of surprising. J.D. Vance is on The View this morning, and so we have plenty of clips of that. But let's go to this first. This is a report from Sports Illustrated. 3 Giants pitchers wore Bible verses on their Pride Night caps during Friday night's game. MLB has issued a warning to them. So, and there's more coming out about the warnings and some of the flack they're receiving for putting Bible verses on their caps, but how can they be forced to wear a cap with a pride flag, but if they want to put a Bible verse on it, then all of a sudden that's wrong? I mean, what is wrong with the MLB?
Well, it fits in what I was talking about earlier. There is no sound principle of life in the left in this country. And you have still a bit, although it's going away in a lot of areas, you have a bit of muscle memory from the last 10 years where the corporations and organizations, sports organizations like the MLB and NFL and them felt that they had to take on these boutique ideas and issues and embrace them. And listen, we should live in a country where however anyone lives their life, as long as it's not harming someone else, they should be able to live it. But that does not mean that we have to honor all of those activities. There's no good reason, this is going to be very controversial, there's no good reason to have any other form of marriage than one man, one woman marriage. That's what builds a society. It's what makes it strong. We don't have to keep people from having other arrangements in their personal lives, but we don't need to honor them in our laws, one. Two, we do not need to honor the trans lifestyle. There's no reason to do that. There are many reasons to be negative of it. There are no reasons to be jerks and violent towards those people, but there is a lot of reason to say this is not good for society. We need to get back to that. You know, people call that something like Christian nationalism. I don't know that we have to pass many laws about it. I think we have to have passed laws that say, no, you can't have biological males in bathrooms. So I'm going through all this to say the Major League office has not gotten the message on this because it's not happening. But there's another thing they don't have the message on, and this is the real danger. It's one thing for them to promote these things. It's another thing for them to go out against people who are promoting the idea that all of Western culture has honored and made Western culture strong for centuries, for 2 millennia now. And that is that the Judeo-Christian ethic is the best ethic to order society. It would be good for our laws to honor the Judeo-Christian ethic as well. And fundamentally amongst them is a legal system that is just and fair, as similar to the one that Moses created way back in the day, which was part of our construct of law in the West. These are the valuable things. It is not valuable, even though they're free to do it, it is not valuable for Major League Baseball to honor trans people. It is very valuable for every one of these players to stand to clearly for the truth of sacred scripture and to honor that in culture against these odd ideas that tear cultures down. So Major League Baseball deserves ire for this kind of stupid activity, even if they are offended by it themselves, to tell these players they can't do that and to maybe quash them in a financial situation or otherwise. First of all, that violates constitutional principles. But secondly, it's absurd in a society. So every one of us should push back against it and honor these brave men who are standing for truth.
Yep, and the MLB's chief communications officer told The Athletic, quote, "The writing on the cap violates our rules and consistent with normal practice. We have warned the players about future violations." I mean, so they can, we can force you to promote our basically religion because they treat this like a religion, the way they throw it in everyone's face, and you have to wear it on your cap. I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing they don't give them an option to wear the other cap, or else these guys probably would, right? But if you go and write a Bible verse on it, then that's unacceptable.
Well, what they're appealing to probably, technically, is that they don't allow special characters or special things to be placed on uniforms because they want to have a uniform standard. Okay, fine. I honestly don't have any problem with that. But I will say this. this little bit of civil disobedience is the right thing to do. These players do need to take a stand because honoring these lifestyles is not useful for society. It really has nothing to do with sports at all. Just ignore all that and go out and play on the dang field. Baseball has really been harmed in the last couple decades because they've been changing what made baseball great. And everyone needs to watch the Ken Burns baseball series. and even though he really pushes the civil rights in of all that, that frankly was a decent thing that Major League Baseball did. But the competitive spirit and the purpose of winning and finding ways to win and excellence in the sport, that's what sports is about. We don't need the rest of it. So let it go. Everyone should thank every one of these players and honor them and respect them for standing up for a principle that matters and apparently individually standing for their professed faith in Christ, because I think that that's a strong and useful thing as well.
Well, let's move on to this clip here. This is J.D. Vance on The View this morning, and Whoopi asked him, what did black people do to this administration to make you stigmatize folks of color?
And we're talking about people. What did black people do to this administration that has allowed it to really stigmatize folks of color? And you know how hard it is. You have folks of color in your family.
Sure.
So when you see, things, the Emmett Till stuff coming down, or them doing all kinds of removal of information of black heroes, how does that sit with you?
Well, what exactly are you talking about, Whoopi? Because
I'm talking about that. I can tell you all this. Yeah.
No, I want to know what
you don't know what I'm talking about.
Actual point.
So in a lot of the museums, there's so many. Where they're taking down the actual history that happened in this country. Slavery happened. All kinds of stuff happened. And it seems that it has been very easy for this administration to remove that and also to denigrate black folks who have worked their behinds off to get this American dream. How do you, you know that.
Sonny, that was actually a very helpful intervention, because I think the story you're talking about is where, allegedly the administration is holding back the appointments of people based on skin color.
I'm talking about a host of things. I'm talking about black history getting erased from public spaces. Black voter districts are being dismantled. Black leaders are being sidelined from our ranks. Where do Americans of color fit in this vision? Because it doesn't seem like we fit.
I think, Sonny, my view,
Since October of last year, there's been something like 6,668 refugees allowed into the country. All but 3 were white South Africans.
So, first of all, I'm very skeptical of that number, because we have a lot of different immigration pathways in the United States of America. But let me just address Whoopi's point. Look, first of all, you asked the question, and maybe you don't believe this coming from me, but I think everybody is welcome in our political coalition. Frankly, even if you didn't vote for us, everybody is welcome in our country, so long as you're an American citizen with the duties and the legal obligations and rights to be here. But Whoopi, let me just give you an example of this. Okay, so you say that we're anti-minority or anti-black.
No, I didn't say that. I asked. See?
Okay, fine. Be fair.
Don't start this stuff with me, man. Don't get me.
I misinterpreted your question, but let me answer your actual question there. What I'm saying, I think, okay, look at Washington, D.C. One of the most democratic and one of the blackest, by a share of population, blackest cities in the United States of America, has seen a radical decrease in violent crimes and sexual assaults and in murders. We have tried to take the crime issue seriously, in part because we believe everybody, whether you're black or white or rich or poor, deserves to live in a safe neighborhood.
But why does the crime, where does the crime step in?
All right, Jim, we're all out of time, but I just had to get that in there. That is... They still didn't give an example. I don't know where we're erasing black history. She said
they have no examples. In fact, Donald Trump has all the examples of how people of color have been benefited in this society when he's been president. And there are numerous examples, both in the Obama administration and the Biden administration, that prove that people of color have been harmed by Democrat policies. And all you got to do is look at the major cities that have Democrat mayors. They're a nightmare right now for people of color. So the whole basis and foundation of their argument is obscene and absurd. And J.D. Vance is showing an imminent amount of patience by not calling them out more urgently for the stupidity of their argument.
Yeah, Whoopi says slavery happened. I don't think anyone's trying to say slavery didn't happen. I don't think anyone's trying to cover up any
there
history.
is still slavery in this country, and it's in inner city public schools. Young people of color who have a lot to hope for in life, who have the skills and abilities to succeed greatly in life, are being destroyed. Their minds are being destroyed and set back because of Democrat education policies. It's as I say many times, it's the last bastion of real Jim Crow racism in this country is inner city public school systems. They're absurd. They're run by teachers unions that are probably among the most racist people in this country, because all these teachers unions are run by white people who do not have young black kids in mind to let them succeed and to give them the opportunities they deserve. That's the real problem. And if I were on the View, that's what I'd be, coming back to these people about.
And how can you expect someone to succeed when you tell them that the world's rigged against them, that they're never going to make it, and it's not fair? I mean, then why would they even try? Why would they even try to go out there?
And to be more clear, family structure was stronger during the Jim Crow years in the black community, and achievement was happening, although the ceiling was set against them, and we did need to deal with those problems. The ability to achieve, the expectation to achieve was much stronger in the black community prior to the Civil Rights Act than for most of the years afterwards, because Democrats, frankly, have used the whole system against people of color. They have not benefited people of color at all. And in no way have Republicans, by and large, done anything to harm people of color. They've done a lot to help by introducing free markets and expanding as best possible the opportunities that can happen with capitalism, imperfect as that has been done. But that's the real hope for people of color, is to have the Civil Rights Act in. That's great, but have economic opportunity being built, because every boat rises with a tide that's growing in free markets and reduced government intervention in their lives. That's the best hope for people of color. And Donald Trump, having done much of that, has caused peoples of color's incomes to rise greatly and unemployment to reduce, an opportunity to rise for them. Donald Trump's the only guy this century that has actually done that. And it's just absurd when they come against him.
Well, we're out of time. We'll be back tomorrow with another report. Until then, go to theconservativecaucus.com and follow Jim on X at Jim Path. Take care.